Hello, my name is Emily, and I'm the social media coordinator at Atlas Psychiatry. I'm with Dr. Pejic for an Ask Me Anything interview. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with question number one.
All right.
What do you think about social media's impact on mental health?
Well, overall, it's supposed to connect people, social media. But I hear this time and time again from patients that it bothers them, mostly because we compare ourselves to other people on social media, and you're seeing like an unfiltered version of people's lives. And I see this clearly kind of in an interesting way. In my early days here at the practice, I had folks' phone numbers on my cell phone. That was a private, protected cell phone that I used for the office. But sometimes on Facebook, it would recommend these folks as friends to me via Facebook. And, I know my patients really well. So it's interesting to see their social media like image that they're allowing the world to see versus how I knew them. And even my own social media is, more glossy than, what I'm really like probably, right? So that was always interesting to me because it was such a dramatic difference from how I actually knew people. So it really does make sense to me that it's a kind of a toxic place to be in, because you're seeing other people go on vacations and these like peak moments in their lives, and it's easy for our internal monologue, especially if you're prone to depression or anxiety, to like go to a negative place with that. On top of that, I've seen kids be omitted, like bullying from omission, where there'll be a kid who's in a picture with other kids, but everyone gets tagged except that one kid, so it's like they're left out. And then there can be cyberbullying as well, where people can hide behind a computer and they don't know the consequences of the words they're using. Then on top of that, I think relying on social media kind of prevents you from making real world connections. And why that's important is that they've done a study at Harvard that's been ongoing since like the 1930s, where the number one thing that people who lived a long life, when they got to the ends of their lives, when they said, what made you happy? The number one thing was relationships. In other words, relationships rule. And even if they had marriages that weren't optimal, they still had greater happiness than people who did not have those types of connections, which is kind of interesting. They also said that mature defense mechanisms like using humor is really helpful. And notice I didn't mention financial, like wealth was not the moving driver for most of these people. And that's if like you're paying most of your bills month to month and you're not too stressed by finances, but you don't need billions of dollars to find happiness. And many people have spoken to that about that in other places, right? But the real world relationships and like having a real conversation with people, being at a coffee shop and saying hello to somebody, just seeing people is healthy. And then the last thing I'll say about social media, I mean, just kind of thinking off the top of my head here, is the addiction part of it. There's lots of folks who just get that dopamine kick from being on social media. I have my pet interest in like YouTube and stuff, and I'll even be down the rabbit hole and say I got to get off this thing and just shut the phone down. I mean, we've all like been there probably, but the addiction part is like going back to it, and it's like a negative. It's a habitual thing that's basically feels kind of icky when you're like, this is just too much. It's like eating too much of a bin or too much ice cream out of a bin of an ice cream bin. And you're just like, man, I went too far with this. I should have put this down about 12 scoops ago. Anyways, that's my take on social media.
Well, yeah, I guess going off of that, I mean, is there an actual decline in overall mental health lately? Or are we just seeing and identifying these issues that have always been there?
I mean, regarding social media, because of social media? Yeah, I think there's a whole Facebook documentary that speaks to that. I think it's probably a blend of it, but you got to wonder mean, we had COVID as well, right?
Right.
So to me, it's hard to factor the effects of COVID in that those kids' generation, the younger kids, um, versus the rise of social media from like the 19 or the early aughts, I guess, onwards. And the iPhone was invented around 2007, I think. And I think that's when like apps and that all kind of took off. So yeah, I do think it has a negative impact. And what we're seeing now is legislation in our government being passed, from what I understand, um, which is going to limit the monetization of our data, give like people more rights of how the data is used. And I think we're kind of wielding this force, especially with AI coming up now. That it's kind of like when electricity was deployed in the United States, people worried about their houses being burning down, or when cars were, remember when cars were invented back in the early 1900s, there were no roads for the cars. They had to like make the roads, make the stop signs. Even in Britain back in the day, when the first car was invented, I think maybe in the late 1800s, they would make like you have an engineer on the car and make you have somebody who was down the road signaling which way you were going to go, and they was like these laws that made it really hard to drive a car because it was a disruptive technology. And so take electricity, take driving a car. Right now we have social media and AI. We need regulation to rein that in so it's safe. I mean, think about seatbelts in the 1970s. I mean, I can remember a time as a kid where like you didn't wear a seatbelt and it was more willy-nilly. But if you look at all the deaths from lack of seatbelts in cars and what seatbelts have done for the car industry, it's huge, especially like all the airbags and things like that. So I think that's really a good analogy for social media. And we're witnessing this. We're like history is being made as we live right now. It's a very interesting time to be alive.
Well, pivoting to you, how do you maintain your own mental health
My
from
own
the
mental health?
stress of your job?
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Well, I'm on a physician burnout app on Facebook. The irony, right? Or sorry, the app is Facebook, and there's a group about physician burnout. Partly just because I have some friends in it, and I'm always interested in what people have to say. But one of my friends, I won't say who he is, like what his profession is, but he's a physician, and he went down to like half-time work and just said, I'm throwing in the towel. I can't work full time anymore. Enough of this insanity. So that was a while back. And I thought that was really interesting because he was doing so much better with his own mental health. So what I started to do was to take time in the middle of the week, like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, to go work out. And my favorite workout is to play basketball. So, and I play competitively, but I just, wasn't carving out the time to do it after work. And who can go to the gym after work? Who wants to go to the gym right after work when you have, really grueling days? Because being a psychiatrist is, you hear lots of terrible things. You kind of, you hold a safe space for patients to talk about things that they wouldn't otherwise talk about with people. It's pretty intense that way. And so for me, it's carving out the time early in the day. And I tell patients all the time, I think you need to pull back and to do these things for yourself, or ask your boss if I can come in later and work later, type of thing, So it's mainly how I do it. And then I have a group of friends that I have since high school. We have a group text going on, so that's always kind of fun and supportive. And then beyond that, obviously my family and my kids, spending a lot of time with them is just rejuvenating. What else was I going to say about that? Oh, there are some things on YouTube I listen to. They say that like you're an average of the 5 people that you spend your time with. So for me to vibrate at the frequency that I want to vibrate in life and achieve the things I want to achieve, sometimes you have to seek personalities out elsewhere to be exposed to that information. You'll see this a lot of times in friend groups where like one friend starts to smoke cigarettes and like it spreads to the other friends. But there's other times when people start to get healthy. So you'll see this in friend groups where someone starts to do some weightlifting or they're going to run a marathon or something. And then the other people start to be more healthy. So I'm very attuned to that and try to surround myself with information that's very positive to keep my my mind right and my inner game on point.
All right. I want to keep the focus on you for just one more question. What do you wish you would have known before starting your own practice?
There's so many things, right? Because it's really starting a small business. I don't think I could have been prepared for it. I think, well, that's not really answering your question. I don't know. I don't, I don't have a great answer for that one.
Okay.
It's hard to explain that. I mean, there's certain things that you learn along the way as you grow. So as our company has grown, it's forced me to pivot and to think a bit differently about things and how we do things. So like that evolution of your own education would not have happened if I hadn't have started it and just, grew the company. So at least each level of things you evolve, and that's just your life path, right? I mean, if there's anything that comes to mind, and they do say that the skills that get you from point A to point B in a business or in life, or your work, are sometimes the same skills that prohibit you from going to point C to D to E to F. So guys like me, I'm like a technician for the brain, right? And that's my main skill. But then you have skills that help you organize. But if that organization is around me, then I might impede the growth of our company. So, that's something that I kind of had to recollect at some point.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take the focus off of you now. So this has been a problem with the Vyvanse and Adderall shortages for the nation. So what are your thoughts about this? What are some ways to kind of cope with getting off Vyvanse or going to another medication?
Yeah, it's really been terrorizing our clinic and our patients' lives, like the fact that they can't get their medication. And while this has been going on, really the chain reaction is there's an Adderall shortage, and then all North America switched to things like Ritalin or Vyvanse or Concerta or these other stimulants. And beyond that, then those go short. Then you have like college kids coming back into town, which are then increasing the supply of these medications. And then on top of that, Vyvanse this year, I think in February-ish, went generic. So when a brand goes to generic, there may be some supply issues at like restocking it or pivoting for companies or for pharmacies rather. So it's been kind of a pain for certain. I think patients have to advocate for themselves to their clinics and at the pharmacy. And then one thing we've done is we've gone back to old school paper prescriptions for folks so they can advocate at the pharmacy and go to different pharmacies to ask if they have it in stock, and that's been helpful. But on top of that, I mean, our clinic has been set up, as you know, with great staff members. So Brittany here, yourself, Emily, Katie Whittington, Aaron Thomas, Ashley Bach, everybody has really been vigilant about getting them the medication, getting folks their medication. And that's a top priority here for us, because I don't want to see any of my patients, our patients, go without. And we try to do the best we can, but I think it's going to sunset. The supply issue should get better over the next 6 to 12 months, especially now that Vyvanse is going generic. There's like more options there.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I'll leave you alone now.
Okay, great. So that's it.
That's it. And we're
All
all
right,
done.
let's do it again. Okay.
Okay.
All
Will
right.
do.
See you.